Brown shag carpet on the walls. A couch they'd been renting for 10 years. Personally, I thought it looked like a fucking Chi-Chi's that had a fire. But upon listening back to the first take of In Bloom, we instantly understood Sound City's legacy. That room and that old Neve board captured something that we had never heard before. It didn't sound like the first record, Bleach. It didn't sound like the Peel sessions we had recorded for the BBC, or the Sliver single, or any of the demos. No, it sounded like Nevermind. It was the sound of three people playing as if their life depended on it. Like they'd waited their whole lives for this moment to be captured on a reel of 2-inch tape. After a week or so at Sound City, for whatever reason, I started getting worried that no one from the label had come down to check out what we were doing. So I called my manager, John Silva, and I asked, "Hey, should we be worried?" His immediate response was, "Fuck no, you should be happy. You don't want those fucking people down there." As usual, he was right. And they left us alone. Well, just as we couldn't imagine making the slightest ripple in the mainstream, no one else really imagined that happening either. The initial pressing of Nevermind was around 35,000 copies. Enough, by their estimate, to last the label a few months. A pretty good indication of everyone's expectations. Well, those were gone within a few weeks. Within a month, the record was gold. By Christmas, the record went platinum. By the new year, we were selling 300,000 records a week. That ripple that seemed so unimaginable had become a tidal wave. I never really figured out why that happened. Timing, perhaps. Legions of disaffected American youth fed up with Wilson Phillips? Probably. But I like to think that what the world heard in Nirvana's music was the sound of three human beings, three distinct personalities, their inconsistencies and their imperfections proudly on display for everyone to hear. Three people that had been left to their own devices their entire lives to find their voices. It was honest, it was pure, and it was real. Up until that point, no one had ever told me how to play or what to play. And now, no one would ever again. The follow-up to Nevermind, In Utero, was a brazen example of this. 12 songs recorded virtually live in only a few days by infamous record producer and opinionated pundit on the music industry, Steve Albini. He's a badass. It truly was the sound of a band in a place or state characterized by freedom from or oblivion to pain, worry, and the external world. Now it was us that had the power. We weren't Nirvana anymore. We were Nirvana. Now you had to fucking leave us alone. The latchkey children that unexpectedly inherited the castle? Maybe. More like Lord of the Flies with fucking distorted guitars, really. But where do you go from there? As an artist raised in the ethically suffocating punk rock underground, conditioned to reject conformity, to resist all corporate influence and expectation, where do you go? How do you deal with that kind of success? How do you now define success? Is it still the reward of playing a song from beginning to end without making a mistake? Is it still finding that new chord or scale that makes you forget all of your troubles? How do you process going from being one of us to one of them? Guilt. Guilt is cancer. It will confine you, torture you, destroy you as an artist. It's a wall, it's a black hole, it's a fucking thief It'll keep you from you. Remember learning your first song or riff or writing your first lyric? There's no guilt then. Remember when there was no right or wrong? Remember that simple reward of just playing music? You are still and will always be that person at your core, the musician. And the musician comes first. Fuck guilty pleasure. How about just pleasure? I can truthfully say out loud that Gangnam Style is one of my favorite fucking songs of the past decade. It is. Is it any better or worse than the latest Atoms for Peace album? If only we had a celebrity panel of judges to determine that for us. What would J-Lo do? Paging Pitchfork. Come in, Pitchfork. We need you to help us determine the value of a song. Who fucking cares? Who's to say what's a good voice and what's not a good voice? The voice? Imagine Bob Dylan standing there singing Blowin' in the Wind in front of Christina Aguilera. I think you sound a little nasally and sharp. It's your voice. Cherish it, respect it, nurture it, challenge it, stretch it, scream it until it's fucking gone. Because everyone's blessed with at least that. And who knows how long it will last. When Kurt died, I was lost. I was numb. The music that I had devoted my life to had now betrayed me. I had no voice. I turned off the radio. I put away my drums. I couldn't bear to hear someone else's voice singing about pain or joy. It just hurt too much. But eventually, that feeling that I had Independence Day, July 4th, 1983, at the base of the Lincoln Memorial Steps, that feeling came back. The same feeling that made me feel possessed and empowered and inspired and enraged and so in love with life, and so in love with music that it had the power to incite a riot or an emotion or start a revolution. I felt it again.